They already moved all the manufacturing plants out of the States, most of them, and offshore. And how do you rebuild that? I mean, the infrastructure is so deeply, deeply gouged and broken by design. I think there's going to be a considerable amount of chaos, and it's very difficult to reconcile because, there's some pockets of the world that are very pristine and beautiful. And so it's not like the whole world is sinking, but the infrastructure and the governments are certainly taxing us. So that's why I think that if we turn to the Egyptians and look at how they had things set up and what they valued, it really is almost a roadmap for our resurrection and coming back, because they really did understand interactions between other dimensional spheres, higher levels of consciousness, intelligent design and science and quantum physics and astronomy, and they understood an awful lot of things, but they certainly understood how to live in harmony with nature and balance. And so it's only in the later dynasties that you see the chariots and the warriors and the cut-off hands and all of that, and that's what they try to tell us the Egyptians were about, and that's not it at all. At all.
Right. And we don't get the story, which is why I highly encourage people to get your DVD set, which is the Pyramid Code, because it really is a model for us to begin to wake up to and see that there are other ways that have been lived that are higher and more peaceful and harmonious. And once people wake up and realize that, we don't need to recreate the wheel, but we do need to see that there are other ways, and that the way that we're going is not the right way. It's so out of balance that it's not even funny.
But, a lot of times you hear people blaming us, like we use too much oil. Well, we use oil because that's the only option. How many options do we have? We don't. And so I don't think that it's the common populace that's causing the problem through greed or over-consumerism.
No.
We're handed all these commercials. We're given all these subliminal responses.
Yes.
We're trained as children in school how to be consumers, how to be hierarchical, and how to judge other cultures or not know anything about them, so they're foreign to us. And so I think that real people, I've been to 52 countries, one more since that bio was written, different countries, and the people of the world are beautiful and kind, and they care all about the same thing. Everyone wants love and respect. Everyone wants their children to do well. But the powers that be are the ones, as you said earlier, that, stir up a fuss, give guns to both sides, pay themselves for contracts to rebuild, so they got to blow it up, but whoops, they forgot to rebuild. I mean, it's obscene what's going on out there. And then they take control of the media and tell us what to look at and what we see and what we're interpreting. And that's not it at all. But the thing is that if we were into deep layers of knowing, higher levels of consciousness, we wouldn't be, they wouldn't get away with it in the same way. But somehow they've managed to control us into thinking this is normal. Yes. And it's not.
And the sad part is, not only are we thinking that it's normal, but they're training us to like it. They're training us to like it.
I don't like it, do you? I don't like it.
No, I think it stinks, and I agree with everything you said. I mean, anybody with open eyes can see the truth of the matter, and people need to wake up and see what's going on around here. Because if they don't, the freedoms are going to be taken away permanently. We never have really been free, but the noose that they've got around us on so many different levels, it almost seems like a hologram.
Well, that's something to be considered. But the thing is that when you say we wake up, okay, we woke up. Now what? Like, lots of people are consuming less or getting rid of the things that they've bought. That they don't use, but still, it's a vicious cycle of consumerism, and that's not life. That's not the whole story about why we're here.
No, absolutely not. I think I think the only way that one can make a change is if you turn away from the materialism that we're absolutely bombarded with at every turn, and start looking inside for spiritual answers. Now, I don't have any, but that's a direction that seems to be one that takes us out of the matrix of control.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's so insidious. And, we still have to wake up from our meditation and pay our taxes.
I know.
Like you can be sitting in the woods on, an obscure piece of property. And, I actually tried to go off the grid in Alberta, Canada a couple of years ago, and they charge you a levy for not using utilities. So if you're off the grid and you've got a wind charger, you still have to pay the equivalent of what you would pay if you were getting power from them. Well, where do they get the power? Getting power from them, it's a metaphor too.
Right.
And it's really like, I think there are lots of good people in the world who have done yoga and meditated and fasted and become pure, who also aren't free. But the other thing is that as long as one person isn't free on the planet, and there's other things going on, a bodhisattva isn't free either.
Right.
That's the definition. We all have to be free of it, not just a couple of people going, yippee, I got away with it.
No, I agree with you totally. What do you see as a path out? What can we do?
Well, I happen to agree with you about the monetary system has to crash and we start over again with credit for infrastructure and not fake funny money chasing itself around. Infrastructure, real jobs, things that give people creativity and inspiration, and they build something, that they have something at the end. But we don't play with that, like the shoemakers' sons have long forgotten how to make shoes and that sort of thing.
I know.
The whole thing about being local, but it's larger than that. I mean, there's lots of people who go to their local market. Basically, these big corporations need to stop being able to get away with this stuff. They're like a person, and they've got laws that protect them. And so, there should be, the government would have to say no to anything that hurts the planet, say no to, these huge corporations that gouge people, and start again with widget makers. And you trade a sack of potatoes for, whatever else, paper, shoes, whatever. Real stuff, real people, art, music, that sort of thing. But we've been dragged away from that, and computer games and all that stuff. It's just like,
I know.
It's multi-generational problems. And
yes,
people
it is. And
Pardon?
And it's an intentional process that's occurred. It's not, I don't believe that it's our fault.
No, it can't be our fault. But the thing is that how do you grow out of that when there's so much damage that's been done? Right. Like when I hear about people who, a whole street of houses that have been foreclosed upon, and the people turn the taps on and, put holes in the walls before they leave. Well, how do you recover from that?
Yeah.
Huge area. I mean, there's so much systemic destruction. Bridges that are going to fall down, and do sometimes. The railways aren't working right. We're not building things to make transportation cheaper.
No.
There's a way to clean the whole thing up. We need new ideology, but we also need people in Congress that don't have thousands of lobbyists, and they, the best system money can buy is what we've got. So you pay for a vote, and then you have to pay back to the people, it goes on. But, the whole system of government, they call it democracy, but it's not. If it was a democracy, we would vote. Like I always said, we take our ATM cards. They said, okay, you've got to give $2,000. Do you want that hole outside your driveway fixed? Oh, yeah, I'll take that. Do you want to pay the pension of a guy who was in office for 6 months for, the rest of his life, or 6 years for the rest of his life? No, I don't want to pay for that. I don't want to pay for his lunch either.
Well, the sad news is the governments are all pretty much bought up already. It's kind of like monopoly. They've taken over all of the governments, and for instance, you can't on certain military sides, and then it gets into the military too. I mean, we're getting sidetracked, but that's okay. I just saw a documentary on Area 51, and you can't walk beyond a certain boundary at the risk of being shot, and there are cars just waiting there to do something to you. This kind of childish mentality of us versus them, and hiding all these things that they have, that's got to all fall apart somehow.
Yep. Yeah, they're hiding things from us, but they're also charging us, like they're using our money for these secret ops.
I know. Sort of I know. It's a disgusting problem.
So the government is what really has to change, and there's too much invested. But it's easy. I mean, like in the ancient. Okay, let's go back to the matriarchal times. The highest level, the person with the highest level of consciousness was the person who governed. And they didn't get anything for it. They got their robe and they got their lunch. They didn't get paid. It wasn't about, you do this for me and I'll do this for you. It was about the whole populace being taught how to be wise and how to serve humanity. You've got your brownie points by service, by giving. And they say, when you get to the pearly gates, it's not how many toys you have, it's how much did you give. Well, this system is not set up that way. But the other thing is that, like I said before, if you don't get caught, it's not wrong. Well, people learn to cheat and make that okay.
That's right.
And it's not, you can buy a degree online. That doesn't mean you're wise. There's so much corruption, and it's insidious in the system. The whole system needs to change. But people are ready. People know what's right, and people know what's good and who's lying, and they know. Like, the thing is that even though people realize that there's so much hidden, it's not that they let it happen. We've like you say, we're being controlled, and so how little people overturn that, I don't know. There's a lot of people who would like to, but 2 million people marched in Washington not long ago, and of course they don't report it. So what's the point? Right. I mean, our voices have been silenced. I'm not sure how this turns around, but it will turn around through values and principles and through the people who are being bought, stopping that. Yes,
I've given a lot of thought to it, and the only solution that I can see is if money just completely becomes worthless and they lose their power, or somehow they become exposed in the process of that financial collapse, and everybody's in the same boat except for them.
Well, you could start by convicting people who have cheated. And if somebody has done something illegal, they're convicted, and that they're not beyond reproach.
Well, since the judges
are funny money, pardon me?
If the judicial system is corrupt as well, what are you going to do about that?
Well, the whole system needs to go, including, like the education system, we're looking at a paradigm shift in education from teacher-centered teaching to learner-centered learning, but the professors and the old teachers, like the hierarchy. And it's systemic. Okay, so what we're saying here, Lance, is it's systemic. And the patriarchal system needs to go. And it actually is time for it to go. And we're to rebuild in a way that's more humanitarian. And no one's going to argue with that. And the people in Afghanistan that are rebuilding understand kindness. And everybody needs, like I said, love and respect. And next we get Abraham Maslow's needs, food, clothing, and shelter. And after that, we can look to enlightenment and, self-growth.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with every word you said. I don't want to veer off too much, but there was one of the things that I noticed in the video that brought up the metaphor of the scarab for our brain and the seven senses. And the Egyptians indicate that we have over 360 senses. Yep. Do you have any idea what those senses might have been about, and have we lost them entirely, or are they just buried under the illusion of the smoke and mirrors that we were just talking about?
Beautifully framed question. The easiest way for me to think about 360 senses is to have a person stand inside a sphere, and then, almost like an owl, can look 360 degrees. You can look all the way around, up, down, and inside. Mm-hmm. That's one metaphor. The other thing is a handle on two senses. So when you think of a term that's synesthesia, is when you can hear a picture or see music, and babies can do it. I've done quite a lot of research on this. And so when senses are blended, that's part of getting another sense, right? And so also, if you connect to, your deep knowing and your intuition, and you're looking, inside the auric field of someone and not just, at their skin sort of thing, then you can, those are where the other senses are. The extrasensory perception, the flash of light that may, be the light body of an ancestor that's on the other side. Looking at photographs for light fields. We see that a lot now. Orbs and that sort of thing. Like our senses can perceive, and there's various biofeedback machines like the SCIO